And yeah, these ICANs, for given just how cheap they are really riding well. So recently, ICAN reached out asking if I wanted to review a set of their Aero 50 Mark II wheels. And yeah, I said absolutely, send them over and we'll see just how they perform. And these things look genuinely really impressive, at least as far as the spec sheet goes. They have some fairly unique specs and things they're doing a bit different compared to a lot of similarly priced wheels. So yeah, let's crack the box open and see what we're working with. So first up in this little bag, some tubeless tape and some valves, nice addition. And then we've got all the like warranty and spoke calibration document. It's quite nice to have, shows that they've actually like done all the wheel truing, which is nice. Good bit of foam packaging and some feathery light wheels. So first up, we have got the rear wheel. Oh yes, they look very, very smart. And feeling really, really nice and light. And that is one loud free hub there. I don't know how well you can see, look how milled out that free hub body is. There is a very, very minimal amount of metal left on that. And the front wheel, not much to this one. Whoa, more of the same. Really nice, fairly wide, modern, hooked rim channel. Well, that's interesting on the hubs. If you look at the disc rotor mounts, they don't have like the splines the whole way around. There's actually gaps in it. I assume that saves a little bit of weight, and you probably don't need that many of them. So I guess that's an interesting little weight saving they've taken. Of course, the rims are not pre-taped, as suggested by the fact they've included some tape in the bag. So yeah, they're going to need taping. One notable thing is though, they don't include spokes in the box. So if you did snap a spoke, you'd have to replace it yourself. But I have some more to talk about the spokes a bit later on in the video. So now it's time for my favorite job of all, throwing the wheels on the scales and seeing what they clock in at. Starting with the front wheel. Now, obviously this is without valves or tape. We've got 565.9 grams. Always good when you start in the 500s. 666.5. Then stacking both of them. You might not be able to see that very well. Then we'll try again, stacking both of them. We're at 1231.9 grams. So just over that 1200 gram mark, which, as much as you might be thinking, you know, Tom, what are you so excited about with these wheels? You know, 1232 grams. Yes, that is light for a set of wheels, but it's not particularly anything special. You know, them core wheels that cost quite considerably less than these ICANs you recently reviewed only weighed 1220, or a set of Fast Sports, like currently on my time right here, well, they're about 1200 to 1230 as well. So what's so special about these ICANs that take them from just another set of cheap Chinese carbon wheels to something actually really quite interesting? And that is, we need to take a look at the spokes. Now, something a lot of these lightweight Chinese wheels all have in common is they generally use carbon spokes, which are brilliant, and they do create an amazing stiff set of wheels with an incredible ability to save weight. However, they are quite a Marmite product, and you know, there's lots and lots of downsides to running carbon spokes, some of which you may agree with or disagree with, but a lot of people find carbon spokes can be a bit more uncomfortable to ride on than steel spokes. Generally, they're not as good for really heavy riders. Now, I don't know whether I'd be running a wheel set this light if I was that heavy, but you know. And also, generally with carbon spokes, they are a proprietary design and not something you can easily replace without having to go back to the manufacturer and buying their specific spoke. Now, what these ICANs do that's amazing is they're not using no-name spokes. They are using Sapim CX-Ray spokes, which are pretty much like industry standard, really well rated, really easy to get hold of spokes. So if you ever did break a set of spokes, in theory, you could take these to any old bike shop and they'd be able to source the spokes for you and fix them up. Which, you know, when you're buying a set of carbon wheels that, you know, even though these are cheap compared to a lot of the market, you know, it's still a lot of cash. You want that ease of repairability, and I get why someone would take, well, what is a 10 gram weight penalty versus a set of Fast Sports to get steel spokes rather than carbon ones. And it also gets me a bit curious, you know, if ICAN were to try some carbon spokes, how light could they get these wheels? I reckon they could be getting down pretty close to that kilo mark. Right, time for the classic bearing grease check. And yep, as expected, completely bone dry. Still, even with the slightly more premium manufacturers like ICAN, no one understands how to put some grease around your hubcaps. But maybe it's just for people in markets that aren't quite as horrific in weather as us here in the UK. Taking a look down the rim bed, you can see it's not sealed, so you are going to need to install some tubeless tape. But what is nice to see is it is a hooked rim. And also, these are a 23mm wide internal. So that is a perfect rim width for if you want to run like 28s or 30s on the road. And now these wheels at 50mm, they are very much definitely a road set of wheels. But yeah, they are. I'm really, really impressed with these wheels. So what do these ICAN wheels cost? Well, they have a few different ways of ordering them, but in the US, UK and Europe, taxes included, they cost just $799 US, which in UK talk is about 620 quid at the minute. So yeah, a really cheap set of wheels. And in any other region, if you're ordering it, they don't do all the taxes for you, and they currently are charging $670, which comes out at just £500. Which, you know, when you compare that to them AliExpress core wheels that cost about 300 to 350 quid, depending on discounts, you know, with these ICANs, it says you get a 2-year warranty, and it is a very reputable brand that's been around for a long time if you did have any problems. And then of course, we've also got things like they're using branded Sapim spokes rather than cheap off-brand carbon spokes that the cores were. So whilst these wheels have an incredible spec sheet, it's completely meaningless if they don't ride well out in the real world. So in order to test that, I threw on some GP5000s, got some rotors and cassette installed, and have thrown them on my bike and been running them for the past couple of months, including a really hard day out testing them in the Lake District. Where better to test a set of wheels than back out in the Lake District? I seem to never stop being up here at the minute. And yeah, these ICANs, for given just how cheap they are really riding well, I have to say. But this ride includes classic Lake District climbs such as the Struggle, so we'll see how they fare when the road really ramps up. Talking stability, as you can probably hear, there's some pretty strong wind today. I think the forecast said 30 to 40 mile an hour prevailing. And yeah, I've just come off a really rapid bit of cross tail, and now we're onto more cross headwind, and no more sketchy than any other 50mm modern set of wheels I've used. I think most manufacturers have perfected these rim profiles these days, and it's been a while since I've rode wheels that have been too sketched out in the crosswinds on. So far, so good, but yeah, we're on the A66, which sucks a little bit right now. As somebody who's pretty much like exclusively been riding carbon spokes on like normal road bikes for the past year now, really, going back to steel spokes has been an interesting experience, and I do actually really notice the difference with these ICANs. Now, I am somebody who absolutely loves carbon spokes, absolutely loves the stiff ride feel, and you know, at the end of the day, my priorities are training and racing, so it makes sense that that's what I enjoy. But with these ICANs, there's definitely a noticeable comfort benefit from swapping back to steel spokes. And normally that would come with a downside of a way heavier set of wheels. But clearly with their design and their rims and their hubs, they've managed to get the whole package down to such a crazy lightweight that you're not really losing out versus carbon spokes. Now, yes, I know carbon spokes, you know, there are some crazy light wheels out there now, but the sort of standard weight of a carbon spoke 50mm wheel set is around 1200 grams, you know. That's what my Fast Sports and my core wheels are weighing in at, and most other standard carbon spoke 50mm. I know there's some ultra lightweight stuff starting to pop up around the kilo mark, but for normal money, they ride incredibly smooth, the tyre profile's nice, the rim profiling's nice, and they look really smart. I think these actually might look better than my Fast Sports, honestly. So yeah, I've really been enjoying riding them so far, but we'll see how they perform up the Struggle in a minute. Stood right at the top of the Struggle. This is probably the perfect place to tell you my final thoughts on these ICAN Aero 50 Mark II wheels. I've just got here up on them and it's rather windy, so my bike is trying to blow away right now. But yeah, these wheels have been pretty excellent, to be honest with you. I've had no issue with stiffness, despite being so used to carbon spokes now. Actually, the steel spokes have been a nice change, and I find it glides even over some of the roughest Lake District roads, really smooth actually. So if you're wanting more of an endurance set of wheels that doesn't compromise on weight, these could be a really good option. And the price is super impressive. For a 1250 gram set of wheels that doesn't need to use carbon spokes, that's pretty mad if you ask me. And obviously, as I was saying, like today especially has been a super windy day and I've had no problems with the crosswinds. So in my opinion, these wheels are an absolute winner. And yeah, if you're looking for something kind of mid-range, I guess, and the fact they're from quite a well-known brand, you should get pretty good after-sale support. So yeah, I do strongly recommend these. And I think given their comfort, these are probably going to be my sort of training wheels for long endurance rides. Because yeah, as much as I love carbon spokes, getting back on these steel spoke wheels has made me realise that yeah, carbon spokes, even at the best of times, are a little bit of a rough ride. I think just not having a good set of steel spoke wheels that I've been riding lately made me think carbon spokes are all the rage, but yeah, I can see why, if you're not racing, you'd want something like this. But given how light ICAN have managed to make these with steel spokes, I'd love to see what they can do if they got their hands on some nice carbon stuff. So I'm really excited to try more of their kit in the future. Let me know if you are as well, and I'll try and get hold of some. So yeah, now you've seen my thoughts on the test ride, it's time for a quick little debrief and how I think they stack up against the competition. They're not as cheap as something like the core wheels, however, they're definitely not in the premium Chinese £1,000 plus bracket either. And I think they strike that balance really well. And whilst the specs aren't completely mind-blowing in any department, all round, I would say, in pretty much every department, these are just good wheels. For example, they've got good weight, not mind-blowing. They've got a good rim profile, not mind-blowing. They've got a good price, not mind-blowing. You can probably get what I'm coming at here. They generally do a really good job. And considering the price, I think these are a real recommendation. Yes, other wheel sets exist that perform better than these in any given area, really. You know, you can get ultralight wheels like the ICAN wheels or some of the ones that Light Bicycle make. Or you can get ultra cheap wheels like them core wheels I've checked out. Or even like a CSC wheel here. But all of those other sets of wheels have something that's not very good. I've yet to find really any major flaw with these, and whilst yeah, as I said, they're not mind-blowing in any particular category, they just do so solidly across the board that I'm actually so impressed. So you'll have to let me know what you think about them really. I mean, for the price, I think they're a no-brainer honestly, and yeah, I'm going to be using these going forward as some pretty good winter training wheels for when I want to get big miles in on the bike, because they were super, super comfortable to ride on. And I think that is probably one of their greatest strengths. So if you enjoyed this video and you're not already, get yourself subscribed down below, smash the like button, and I will see you all in the next one. I have got an absolute ton of incredibly exciting bike builds and component reviews on the way, so you really don't want to miss it. And until the next one, I'll see you all soon.